Games of cool music, and these are some of the ones that I like! Couldn't think of a good intro, so that's what you get. Deal with it. Talk about a way to kickstart your action game. Metal Gear Rising starts off on all cylinders, taking one of the final bosses of Metal Gear Solid 2 and basically letting you effortlessly wreck the thing at a glorified tutorial level, setting both the tone of the entirety of Rising's crazy power trip of a campaign, as well as the crazy power spike you get as Raiden, as opposed to the usual stealth outings that the parent series is known for. Key to making the over-the-top action in Metal Gear Rising work is the fantastic soundtrack, and Rules of Nature gets the ball rolling in the best way possible, with this song, and all the boss battles that follow, composed in such a way that allows it to dynamically swell and sync with key scripted sequences as you take on Rei, allowing for the most intense parts of the song to hit hardest and accentuate the on-screen action flawlessly. It's a combination of audio and visual that has been done here and there before in other titles, and we're well accustomed to it in static mediums like film, but to have a crazy awesome song seemingly conform to your actions at your pace was a brilliant trick that made Metal Gear Rising all the more memorable. The original Diablo was one of the first PC games that I ever played. It was an RPG far different from the colorful, turn-based Japanese role-playing games I'd been accustomed to on consoles, with real-time combat, character customization, and, most notably, a dark, mature atmosphere that was thick and palpable. The desolate, depressing world of Diablo emanated from every sprite and sound effect, but due to the simplistic nature of the visuals, for me, the bulk of the atmosphere came from the music, and none was more memorable than the theme of Tristram. A chillingly beautiful melody of strings, the theme of Tristram Village set the tone of Diablo flawlessly, balancing the oppressive nature of the demons ravaging the poor village with the sensation of despair and hopelessness in the hearts of the populace, while somehow also evoking a subtle sense of beauty and calm, not just from the stunning instrumentation on display, but in a way that seemed to talk to the glimmer of hope in your character's arrival and how you alone could save this place and cleanse it of evil. The theme does all of this without being overwhelming or intense in its composition, allowing what is the initial mood-setting melody at the beginning of the game to also allow some respite in between your descents into the catacombs when you return to the surface to recoup and rearm. The phrase, "stay a while and listen," is iconic in terms of Diablo nostalgia. With a BGM like the Tristram theme, you're more than willing to take Deckard Cain up on his offer. Is it sad on my part or great marketing on Squaresoft's part when an opening theme can make me purchase a game? Because the opening cinematic and accompanying song, Time's Scar, did exactly that for me when I first experienced Chrono Cross at my friend's house back in elementary school. The sound of Time's Scar, and Chrono Cross in general, bucked the trend of the faux synthesized orchestrals that was common in Square's Final Fantasy series and most other RPGs on the PlayStation chasing its coattails, instead going for a sound much more reflective of its tropical location and brighter color palettes compared to Final Fantasies 7 and 8, and to an extent even 9. The entirety of the soundtrack to Chrono Cross remains one of my favorites in all RPGs I've ever played, but I'll never forget that first time booting up the game being blown away by Time's Scar, which set the tone for the unique, magical journey those two CDs would take me on. The main theme of Metal Gear Solid is a legendary tune in and of its own right, and in each game of the series it gets a new treatment, all of which are fantastic, but if you had to twist my arm over which I thought was the best, it has to be Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. The tune is brilliantly played over the final battle between Solid and Liquid Snake, essentially the finale of the definitive conflict started back in 1998 with the very first Metal Gear Solid. The song on display here contains the staple high energy and signature melody that defines the MGS theme, but the most potent moment in the entire song is when it slows down and everything else cuts out, and the melody is then played primarily by a single trumpet. Its contrasting simplicity is extremely powerful, evoking a combination of nostalgia from hearing these notes in this sequence over and over for years, but also is reminiscent of taps, and evokes images of the dutiful soldier being laid to rest. And in essence, that's what's going on in this fight, and in this game. Metal Gear Solid 4 was the final outing of Solid Snake, and he himself in the game was an old man now, weary of all the fighting, and now almost hopelessly outdated on the battlefield dominated by machines and technologically enhanced super soldiers. It's a powerful concoction of familiarity and subtle but well-implemented auditory association that reinforces the themes of the game, and perfectly punctuated the closure of an iconic character's legacy that spanned over a decade. There's a story behind this one. A story that needs to be told in order to fully understand my appreciation for this game and its soundtrack. So back in the day, I bought a game called Soul Calibur 2. It was one of the first fighting games that me and my friends really got into, and kind of exposed me to fighters in general beyond the occasional Street Fighter 2 bout at the random pizza joint or whatnot. I'm looking around the game shop before I check out, and I notice a Game Boy Advance game called Guilty Gear X Advance Edition. I look at the back, and it's a fighting game featuring a bunch of colorful characters that fight with weapons, kinda similar to Soul Calibur. Since I'm busy jonesing on fighting games at the moment, I decided to pick this game up too. Well, fast forward a few weeks after that, and I've largely forgotten about Soul Calibur, too busy with my nose stuffed into my GBA screen playing this dinky little handheld fighter. One of the things I noticed is that, despite the music being absolute shit quality, even by Game Boy Advance standards, a lot of the songs were insultingly catchy, and I couldn't get the melodies out of my head. A few months down the line, I'm visiting my local Blockbuster. Yes, I'm that old. Looking for a game to rent, and I find Guilty Gear X2 for the PlayStation 2. Oddly enough, it didn't click to me that the Advanced Edition in the title meant there was most likely a home console version of my current addiction. I bring it home, I pop in the disc, and my brain explodes. To truly understand, this is what I've been listening to for months. And then suddenly, it's this. This. To this. Suddenly it all makes sense. You couldn't fuck up music this amazing no matter how much you bit crushed it. Daisuke Ishiwatari, the composer for Guilty Gear, is a fucking god when it comes to making heavy metal fighting game tracks, and Guilty Gear XX is his crowning achievement. Every character's theme is somehow heavy, fast, and the quintessential example of metal as a genre, while simultaneously also complementing each of the game's insane, massive diverse cast of characters to a T. Whether it's the prim and proper Holy Knight Kai Kisk, the rough and tumble ninja Chip Zenith, or the sweet and innocent Pirate May, each character's track is insanely memorable. The Guilty Gear soundtrack was the first album I ever ordered online because I needed it in my life. And when the disc didn't have all the tracks I wanted, it became the first album I ever torrented as well. To this day, I still listen to the entirety of the Guilty Gear soundtrack on a fairly regular basis, and remember, I got my first earful of it from Blockbuster. That's staying power. And for that reason, if nothing else, I have to say that Guilty Gear XX is my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. Before I go, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all my patrons over on Patreon. You know, these videos wouldn't happen without these guys helping me out, so if you like this video and you see any of these names down in the comments, give them some love, because without their help, this video wouldn't have happened, this channel would be long since dead by now, so kudos guys, I really appreciate it. If you want to be on this list too, check the link in the description below the like button to become a patron. Anything you do for me is highly, highly appreciated. It's how I eat, get the money from the Patreon, so I like it. I like being able to fill my stomach. Yeah. And that's all I got for this top 5. Give it a thumbs up if you thought it was good, or give it a thumbs down if you thought it friggin' sucked. Keep in mind, guys, that this isn't me trying to have some sort of definitive objective list. Clearly, I haven't played every video game out there, so I'm sure there's a bunch of BGM tracks would be on your list that I haven't even heard of. Literally. So let me know what you guys' top 5 list is below in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future top 5s, let me know in the comments below as well. Till next time, I'm Tommy Oliver. Stay curious.